I read in yesterday's column that the Liberals should actually campaign against the Albanese government's global warming agenda in the same way, in the same place as it campaigned so well against The Voice. And today, Opposition Leader Peter Dutton was doing just that. He went to the coast near the Hunter Valley, where the Albanese government wants a massive wind farm out at sea, visible from land. And what's interesting is that the two seats there, Hunter and Robertson, are both Labor held, but both voted against Labor's Voice. And with global warming here again, they're being made to pay for an agenda cooked up by the elite. And Dutton went for it.
I do think this is an absolute travesty. And I do think when you go out into the waters and see the natural beauty, the bird life, all of that which is at risk, the marlin fishing obviously, which is a big part of the environment here, when you look at the whales and the mother and the calf that we saw out there, the dolphins, all of that is at risk because there's no environmental consideration of what these huge wind turbines, 260, 280 metres out of the water, will mean for that wildlife and for the environment. And the fact that the government hasn't taken that into consideration, they're completely and utterly driven by their desire to get to 82%.
Joining me is Rowan Dean, editor of The Spectator Australia and host of Outsiders here on Sky on Sundays at 9 a.m. Rowan, this campaign now on global warming aimed at Labor seats, not the old Liberal ones in the city now held by Teals. Nice switch. What do you think?
Oh, it's fantastic, Andrew. Absolutely superb. Congratulations to Peter Dutton. I've been saying with you on the show and elsewhere for months now that if Peter Dutton followed the template of the No campaign on The Voice, sure, he took a little bit of time to get there, but when he got there, he was committed to saying no to The Voice. This was the first time for a long time that the Liberals had fought in the culture wars. If you remember, Scott Morrison used to say, oh, I don't know, woke, too woke, what's the difference? I don't care about that, and there's no jobs in the culture wars, all this sort of stuff. It was all rubbish at the time, and Morrison deservedly got punted because he refused to engage. The secret to the Liberals winning the next election, I've been saying, by the way, for several months, they will win the next election. We will have a Dutton government, and I personally can't wait for it to arrive. Albo is now albatross, as the front cover of The Spectator says this week. Albo now hangs around Labor's re-election chances like a dead albatross. He's an omen of bad luck and ill fortune as the Labor ship heads towards the rocks of the next election, and that motley crew of ministers that we've all become used to will be floating on the rafts out to sea, metaphorically speaking. Peter Dutton, or if we had a referendum, Andrew, on every one of the major culture wars, global warming, net zero, transgenderism in schools, we've had the race one, we would get the same result. We would get 62-38 each time. The simple fact is that all the coalition has to do now is stick to their guns, fight the culture wars electorate by electorate. It's really sensible to go to the Labor seats where culture wars play. I mean, there's so many culture war issues that are at play that the Liberals have been too scared to touch. They're there to be won. You win the culture wars by fighting them, and they certainly can.
Well, it's so true, and it just goes to a thing that I've always argued, that we should try to, as Conservatives, Libertarians, should try to drag more issues into a forum where there's a vote at the end of it. Try to make it a votable issue because they'd win most times. Now, to the war in Israel, warning to viewers, I'm not going to show you anything disturbing. I'm sick of that. It's distressing, but we are going to talk about it. Rowan, Israel's government military have been so shocked that so many people on the left particularly, and so many journalists, have either doubted some of the horrors that Hamas terrorists have committed on the day they killed 1,400 Israelis, or they now think, well, both sides are doing the same, it's no real difference. So Israel's arranged a briefing overnight for journalists, 3/4 of an hour, showing body cam footage, much of it shot by the Hamas terrorists themselves. A young girl hiding under a table, shot dead. Boys watching their own father being killed in front of them, themselves shot. Baby, well, I'm not going to go on to what I've actually seen with my own eyes about babies there. Why was this briefing necessary?
Oh, absolutely necessary, Andrew. The most disgusting, not the most disgusting thing that has occurred in my lifetime is what happened on October 7th in the deserts around Gaza. That is the most shocking, disgusting, disgraceful, vile, evil that has been perpetrated in my lifetime. One of the morgue workers there who had studied what had happened to the bodies and the victims, the Jewish victims during the Holocaust, one of the morgue workers there described what these Hamas terrorists, these vile creatures, had done to the bodies, the women and children of Jewish women and family members as worse than the Holocaust. You mentioned, decapitation, dismembering of bodies, torturing bodies in front of their children, parents in front of their children, vice versa. Utter degradation, inhumane, beyond belief. Now, we promised after the Holocaust, the world promised never, never again. One of the most important reasons we have places like the Sydney Holocaust Museum and various museums around the world, and the reason many anti-Semites hate these places so much is they are such a powerful reminder of the horrors of the Holocaust. We need to be reminded, and our children need to be reminded, of the horrors of what happened on October 7th, and until every single individual who perpetrated those inhuman horrors is brought to justice or killed, we cannot stop showing what they did.
History has to record this is different. Rowan Dean, thank you so much for your time.